Welcome to the Cheating Secrets channel. We hope you enjoy today's story.
Michael sat on the edge of the bed. He enjoyed one of his favorite pastimes, watching his wife of over 30 years as she prepared for the evening, getting ready to dine and then dance. This time was different from all the others. This time, as he enjoyed watching her, a feeling of almost overwhelming sadness filled him. Today she is more beautiful than ever before, he thought. Tomorrow was supposed to mark their 50th anniversary, and since they had planned a family party to celebrate her birthday with their 2 children and their families, this evening was meant to be a private celebration just for them. As she sat at the vanity, he consciously admired her face and body. She's still lovely, he mused. Her beautiful hair, her face, and her equally toned figure, the maintenance of which she had diligently worked on for many years. And don't forget that perfectly shaped rear end she always teased him about. He felt deep pride and love for her, but then sadness crept back into his heart. He was a practical man. He took pride in his analytical abilities. If there was a problem, especially at work, he was the person to go to for an answer. It might not be the quickest response, but you could count on it being the most logical and well-thought-out answer. Unfortunately, that's why he found himself sitting on the edge of their bed, watching with a heavy heart as his wife prepared for the evening. If this is the last time I take pleasure in what she does, what did I do wrong? I still love her with all my heart, body, and soul. What did I do wrong? Why couldn't I foresee this in time to do something about it? Am I right? Do I really know her? Questions seemed to roll around in his head, then return as if they were a flock of birds circling overhead. He knew this evening would be the most crucial crossroads in his life. It would either be a new beginning for him or the end of his life, as he now understood it. He had been planning this for over 2 weeks now, and this evening was his perfect opportunity to have the most important conversation of his life with his wife. He had spent countless hours trying to understand how they had reached this moment in their marriage. He had uncovered so much in the past few weeks. As his thoughts became clearer, more and more signs pointed to the possibility that they weren't the couple everyone thought they were. Again, unfortunately, he meticulously went through them in his mind to make sure he hadn't missed something or misunderstood what he had done. Over the past few months, I wasn't sure when exactly it started. She was distant and preoccupied with something next to me. Looking back, I realized that our sexual life was slowly but steadily decreasing to the point of disappearance. There were moments when she overreacted to something insignificant that I did wrong, and she treated me like a king. Especially troubling were the times when she clearly lied about where she was and who she was with. The dinner for 2 at Jolly Restaurant charged to her credit card on that evening when I knew I wasn't with her was a clear signal to me that perhaps I wasn't the only one on her mind. However, the last 2 weeks have been a period where my suspicions became even more real. Almost in an instant, she changed. Now she's attentive to every word and need of mine. Now she seems eager to engage in love at every opportunity. Now she wants to be the wife and companion she hadn't been for so long. What happened this time? It baffles me. I couldn't understand why she changed all these months ago, and now I don't understand why she's changed again. But in any case, it's obvious to me that she's not the same woman I married and loved all these years. Where is this remarkable, caring, and loving woman, and will I ever find her again? Who is this woman I don't know, and what led to her creation? I don't like either of these 2 women. Enough, enough. Time to put this show on tour, as they say. Dear, I just want to tell you how much I love you and how much I love watching you, said Mike. You're so beautiful, darling. You know I love and adore you. I've always loved you and always will. Dawn looked at Mike's reflection in the mirror with a curious expression on her face. Thank you, Mike. I don't know what prompted you to say this, but I want you to know that I love you just as much. Dawn looked carefully at her husband. I wish I knew what has been bothering him lately. It seems the more I try to work on our relationship, the more closed off and distant he seems. With a mental sigh, she thought, I just need to keep trying. I'm not giving up on us. I just love him so much, and I want him to love me the same way. Interesting, do you really love me as much as I love you? Mike murmured quietly. What did you say, Michael? You've been cryptic lately. I really want you to express yourself, she replied, looking him in the eyes. Interesting, do you really love me as much as I love you? His expression would have been amusing in most other circumstances. The shock of his words left her mouth open, and she gasped with a hurt tone in her voice as she asked, why would you say something like that? How could you even think of something like this, let alone say it out loud? Darling, he said, we really need to talk. We have a bit of time before departure, and I have something I want to tell you and a few questions. I don't necessarily need answers right now, but I definitely want to get answers before the night is over. Of course, you can ask me any questions. I don't have secrets from you because you're my husband, my soulmate." Michael almost chuckled. The tension in his body was so strong that he felt like a wire stretched to the limit. "Dawn, I want you to listen to me carefully. I have a series of questions and several statements that I want you to listen to, and I don't want any answers right now. I would prefer if you took the time during our night to carefully consider your responses. It's going to be a difficult request, but you really need to know that our marriage's fate depends on your honest answers." Oh, damn, he wants a divorce. I had no idea things could turn out so badly. Dawn gasped, but as her husband requested, she kept her comments to herself. Michael went through all his questions and statements thoroughly and methodically, realizing that something was seriously amiss in their relationship. "Firstly, you practically excluded me from your life for several months. Then in the last 2 weeks, you've been acting as if you're my servant, going out of your way to fulfill all my needs, including any needs I might have in our bedroom. Your mood swings have been dramatic and completely unpredictable. I've been walking on eggshells for months, like I'm navigating a minefield of your emotions, ready to explode at the slightest mistake. You've lied to me about where you've been and with whom. And the final nail in this old coffin of our marriage was the dinner for two, and I damn well know I wasn't there with you. So what am I getting at with all this? I think you have an affair. I think your affair recently ended, and you think you can jump back from its bed into mine. So, the questions. 1. Do you want a divorce? 2. Do you love him? 3. How many times and with how many guys have you cheated? 4. Do you want to stay in the marriage, and if so, will you continue to cheat? And what reasons can you give me to convince me that I want to stay with you in this marriage?" Dawn just sat there. Michael thought she was showing tremendous control. He really placed a heavy emotional burden on her. Dawn wasn't showing control. She just lost her speech. Michael stood up and said, "Dawn, finish getting ready, and I'll meet you downstairs. We need to hurry or we'll be late for dinner." She managed to finish her preparations and meet Michael downstairs. Somehow she managed to get through the evening, and after Michael reminded her that he didn't want to discuss his accusations further until the end of their evening, she was able to almost enjoy the time she spent with her husband. She had really drunk too much, and by the time they returned home, she was ready only for sleep and nothing more. She was emotionally exhausted and, with alcohol in her system, knew she couldn't continue the conversation with her husband. So, she complained of tiredness and a headache. She quickly changed into her nightshirt and climbed onto her side of the bed. Fortunately for her, she fell asleep instantly. Michael decided to postpone the discussion until morning, and without wasting time, he lay down in bed. Surprisingly, he was able to fall asleep quickly and slept soundly all night. The next morning, Michael got up first, took a shower, went to the kitchen, and started preparing breakfast. He started by making coffee since he knew from years of experience that Dawn would come soon, as she almost always did because she wasn't one to lie in bed for long. When she entered the kitchen, he was sitting at the table. "Can I get you a cup of coffee? Do you want toast or something similar?" "Yes, I want coffee, Michael. Thank you for offering, but I don't think my stomach is ready for anything yet. With everything that was said and done last night, and with alcohol on top of it, my stomach would prefer to skip breakfast. Dawn, last night was my turn to lay all that nonsense on the table, where we can truly understand where we're going and whether we're going to be together or not. This morning it's your turn, so I'm giving you the floor, and we'll see what comes of it. Michael, I thought a lot about what you said last night. I heard you when you emphasized the importance of honesty and openness in my answers. Firstly, I want you to know that you're the only man I've ever loved and the only man I've ever slept with since our wedding day. I'll try to address things in the same order as you asked, as far as I can remember. No, I never wanted a divorce from you. There's no hidden lover in the background, so I can easily say I don't love this non-existent person. Again, I've never cheated on you since we got married, so there's no army of men I've slept with to confess to you. I want to stay with you in our marriage more than anything, and I'll remain faithful to you until death finally parts us. That charge on the credit card was just a business dinner, which you either forgot about or, worse, I forgot to mention to you. Finally, the only reason you'll want to stay married to me is that I love you. I love only you with all my heart, body, and soul. I'm guilty of distancing myself from you for a long time. And you're also guilty of growing apart from me. I believe we both went through a dry spell in our marriage and simply didn't realize it at the time. Lately, I've started to understand again why I love you, and for the past 2 weeks, I've been trying to drown you in my love. It was my way of reigniting the fire that we allowed to almost extinguish. Michael looked at Don squarely in the face. Don met his gaze with a calm expression and didn't flinch once from his direct look. Michael, you must know that I love you and only you. Michael continued to stare at his wife, then his face slowly changed. An expression of deep sadness and loss grew and grew until he looked as if he's about to die. Michael, what's wrong? Are you sick? Don became increasingly anxious with each passing second. Should I call 911? Finally, Michael began to speak in a low, monotone voice. Don, I love you with all my heart and soul. I hope that we could finally be honest with each other. I think you simply can't or don't want to be honest with me. I gave you every chance because I truly wanted to stay with you in marriage until the end of our days. Michael's voice grew stronger, and a note of anger became more audible in his tone. I'm sure I've done everything I could to save our marriage, and I know you haven't done your part. Michael reached into the desk drawer, pulled out a large manila envelope, and handed it across the table to his wife. Dawn, I still love you, but love is not enough, and I don't want to be your husband anymore. I've filed for divorce. You need a lawyer. I don't want to see or talk to you ever again. I'm going to pack some things and leave soon. I must say that I'm very sorry, but since I don't believe that you regret it, I don't see any reason to think otherwise. You've made the bed, and now you'll have to sleep in it without me forever. Michael slowly got up and went straight upstairs, where he began to gather his clothes and toiletries. He had already booked a hotel room and, on the advice of his attorney, took all necessary financial measures to begin separating himself from his wife, who was soon to become his ex-wife. Dawn didn't understand what was happening. She was so stunned by Michael's words and actions that she couldn't act. She just sat at the kitchen table while Michael packed his things. When he left, she sat motionless at the table for almost an hour. Finally, she managed to drag the dreadful envelope to herself. She opened the flap and pulled out the documents that clearly stated the end of her life with Michael. Why didn't he believe me? Why did he think so badly of me? I know we can work this out, but he didn't even give us a chance. Dawn glanced at the paper without reading it, then noticed that something was still in the envelope. It looked like a photograph, so she reached out and pulled it out. It was a picture of her engaging in sexual activity. The photo clearly showed her on the marital bed in her own home. It also clearly showed that the man she was having intercourse with was not Michael. A scream escaped her lips. She realized that Michael knew. She thought she had lied so carefully and skillfully about her affair with Phil, and that Michael would believe her. She had ended the affair and genuinely tried to repair the damage done to the marriage and her husband. Back then, she didn't realize, as she did now, that the only way to save her marriage was to be sincere and honest. Of course, since she had been unfaithful to her husband, honesty and truthfulness were not among her main personal qualities. The bitterest pill was that her husband had left and would never return. She was sure that Michael would keep his word and that divorce was the only solution he would find acceptable. She was also sure that she had truly lost the only man she had ever loved. The last sad fact was that the affair, with all its wonderful sex, wasn't worth a single moment of the time she spent with her husband. Her vows at their beautiful, luxurious wedding came to mind. To have and to hold, in sickness and in health, forsaking all others. This was the final arrow that pierced her heart and finally brought her some of the pain her husband had been experiencing for the past few weeks. It couldn't compare to his pain, but it was the strongest pain she had ever felt. She knew she was a cheater. She deceived her husband, their children, and their entire family. She would be a cheater now and for the rest of her life. Her whole family looked at her and saw nothing but a cheater.
Thank you for being with us and listening until the end. If you found it interesting, please subscribe, give us a like, and leave your comments. And we'll see you on the Cheating Secrets channel.